Creating ASP.NET Web API. So let's see how we can use ASP.NET Web API for building our first REST API. So make sure you have installed the Visual Studio on your machine. I'm already having a Visual Studio 2017. You can have 2015, 2013, even 2019 also. Now there is a way to create your Web API project. So just go to the file and there is option new and create a new project here. So under the Visual C#, you will get the option here for web. In the web, you will get here ASP.NET Web Application. And even if you have installed the .NET Core, so you will get .NET Core template as well. So here we are not learning the .NET Core, we are learning the ASP.NET Web API 2. So this is the template available for creating ASP.NET MVC 5 application as well as ASP.NET Web API 2 application. So now let's specify the location where you are willing to save it. So I'm using here, let's say code, and I just define the folder name. Let's say Web API is my folder, and I'm just defining my application name. Let's say Web API start. So this is the project I'm just creating here for my Web API, and these are the available template which you can use for creating different types of application. So this is the empty template you can choose for creating an empty ASP.NET Web API project. Even there is a template Web API which is going to be having the setting for MVC as well as Web API. You can see by default MVC checkbox and Web API checkbox is checked. So it is a built-in template in Visual Studio where you will find out the setting for the MVC 5 and the Web API 2. And further you can use it for building your complete application. Here you can create the Azure API app as well. So this Azure API app, it's a Web API project in fact, which you can deploy to the Microsoft Azure. So in the upcoming session we will talk about the deployment. In the next course we will talk about the Azure API and how we can deploy it to the Microsoft Azure. So here it is a getting started course. So let's start with empty one. And now just check this Web API. So any unnecessary template I'm not using here. Let's start with scratch. Now click on the OK button. It will create our ASP.NET Web API project with all the necessary settings to get started with ASP.NET Web API. So you can see here we are having app_data folder. It is empty. We are having app_start folder that is containing Web API config file. It is similar to the route config file we have in MVC 5. So if you remembered, in case of route config file of MVC, we define the routes for our application. Same way for Web API also we are defining the routes. So it's configuring the attribute routing for our Web API. It is configuring the convention based routing for our Web API. So about the routing we will discuss in the next course. Here we are not discussing, I'm just explaining about the folder structure and the files so that you have the idea like in which folder what we need to create and the file and what file containing which code. So this is my default root name here, and it's having the API word as a prefix, then controller, then ID. So this is a root template we are having. So it's a just like we have the routing template in MVC 5, so there also there is a root template, and here in the root template there is a API word as a hard code. So you might be thinking why this API word is hard code. It is hard code because to distinguish between the MVC routing and the ASP.NET Web API routing, because sometimes the people use the MVC routing and Web API routing together. So how we will identify this route is for only Web API and this route is only for MVC. So this is the only significance for this API. But if your API is an independent application, so this API hard code what you can remove. It is not making any sense. Our controller folder is empty. Model folder is also empty. It's having a global.asx where we are calling this Web API config register method. So this register method actually we are calling in this global.asx. So this application underscore start file, this application underscore start method is going to be called only one time when our application is going to start up. So let's say you deploy the application on the IaaS. So when first time it will be startup. So all the application startup setting are going to be applicable through this method. So routing is going to be configured only one time, and all the routes are going to be added in the route table. So whenever you will request any URI, so from the routing table, it's going to be decided which URL we need to serve, or you can say which action and which controller is going to be used to respond this URL, or you can say to respond this request. There is a web.config file also. So whatever that the application label setting you are willing to define, we define in this web.config file. Let's say database connection is string, authentication, authorization, modules and handler, which are willing to define. We can define it this root label web.config file. And there is a packages.config file as well. So what are the NuGet packages you are willing to use in your application? Those packages information contains by this packages.config. If you will see which version of Web API we are using here Web API 5.2.4 version. Then Web API client 5.2.4 version, Web API core, Web API host, Newtonsoft we are using here 11.0.1. Same way we will add here entity framework. You will get the entity framework package information, whether you are using entity framework 5, whether you are using entity framework 6. Even if you are willing to add MVC 5 also, so that MVC 5 package information also be added here. So if you want to know like which version of Web API we are using, which version of entity framework we are using, so always just have a look in this packages.config file. By looking into this packages.config file, you will get to know which version of Web API we are using, which version of MVC we are using, and which version of entity framework we are using in a project. So this will help you to get to know about the version your project is using for a particular framework. And based upon the version, you can start writing the code for the supporting features, because each version having the different set of features. In Web API 1 we are having different features, in Web API 2 we are having some new features as well. So the Web API 1 features you can also use in Web API 2, and the new feature you can also use in Web API 2. So when you are saying here, let's say Web API, let's say 5.2.4, actually say Web API 2 we are talking about here, because Web API first time introduced in MVC 4. Web API is not available from its first release. So Web API first time introduced with MVC 4. So in MVC 4 it was Web API 1, and in MVC 5 it is Web API 2. So here if you will see, they are having the similar package version as we have in MVC, because in MVC also we are having the same version, and now in Web API also we are having the same version. So now what you need to do here, you need to create your controller here. So in the next session we will see how we can create our API controller and how we can use it. Creating controller and action. So far we have just created our ASP.NET Web API project using the empty template. So now let's see how we can create the controller, how we can create the action in our Web API so that we can further perform the CRUD operation. So I'm already having a previously created project, but it's not having any controller. So let's create a controller. Just do right click on the controllers folder, and here just select add controller. And if you will see here in the Visual Studio wizard, I'm getting here various scaffolding template. So these are the various scaffolding template. So when you're talking about the scaffolding, so scaffolding is a code generation technique. That means if you will select, let's say this Web API controller with read write action, so automatically this template will generate the code for performing the read operation, write operation. You don't need to write so much code there. You need to just do the necessary changes as per your requirement. So scaffolding is helping us for generating the code so that we can save our development time. So here I'm not using these scaffolding template. I'm just using here the empty one, because in the empty one it will create a simple API controller. So just select this one, then click on the add button, then define your API controller name. So here we are willing to create an API for our user. so that we can perform the CRUD operation on a user. So let me define a user controller. So controller word you should put as a suffix so that you can understand it's a controller, but it's never counted in the name of the user API. Click on that button. You can see using scaffolding, it is generating the code for us. You can see in the API, every controller is going to be inherited from API controller. If you remember, in case of MVC5, all the controllers are inherited from controller class there. So the difference between MVC controller and API controller is, in MVC, all controllers are inherited from the controller class, but in AS4.NET Web API, all controllers would be inherited from the API controller class. And in MVC, the namespace was system.web.mvc. But in Web API, the namespace is system.web.http. So here everywhere you will find HTTP wherever we have the MVC. So here we are using system.web.http namespace where API controller class is available. Now let's create first action in your API so that we can return some data from here. So I'm adding here, let's say public. Then you can define your action return type as I action result, IHTTP action result. Then define your method name, let's say get users. And here so far we have not created any database connection and we don't have any del layer. So what I can do here, I can return here a list of users. So let's create a list here, and for returning the user, just do one thing, just create a user model here. I'm adding here a user model, let's say user model I'm adding here. Now it is some property here, let's say I'm adding here user ID. I'm adding here another property, let's say string name. I'm adding here the property, let's say string address. This way. Now this user class I'm using here, let's say user list equal to new user equal to new list and a user. Let the namespace here, I'm adding the namespace here. So let's define the namespace here this way. And what I'm doing here, I'm just defining here is some data in this user list. Let's say user list. I'm adding here some data dot add, and I'm adding here new user. I'm adding here only for testing purpose. Later on we will use the entity framework. So I'm just using here user ID equal to 1. I'm using, let's say name equal to, let's say I'm adding here Shailendra. I'm adding here address, let's say it's Noida. So this is the first user we have added. Same way we can add another user also. Let's say user ID 2. I'm adding here, let's say Mohan. I'm adding here, let's say Delhi. And now here let's return this user list. So just user return and user list. So when you're using here return user list, you can see here we are getting there because this list cannot be converted into the IHTTP action result. So there is a method here OK. In the OK method you need to wrap the list of data which you are willing to return here. So this OK method, you can see it will return the OK response. So by default when your request is going to be succeeded, so we get the response code as a 200. So the same status code it will return here. Same way we can define here other method as well. So I'm defining here a method, let's say HTTP get user by ID. I like you to use get user only. Then pass the ID here, integer ID. And this is the same ID so we'll see we have in this web API config. This is the ID parameter. Same ID parameter I'm expecting here. I'm receiving here, you can see. So here just write the code. Let's say it's a user again equal to, then user list, then find it based upon the predicate. So it's here a user dot user ID equal to ID, and what are the data we will receive? Let me return as a return OK. So this way we just created here two simple action, one for returning all the users and one for returning a single user. And here how we will call these two actions? We will call these two actions based upon the routing here. So in the routing it is here API/controller then ID. So here the generated URL for this get users would be here API/user. User is my controller name, and we are not passing any action name. It is decided automatically based upon the verb name. So get verb we are just going to prefix here. So that's why I can call it by using only API/user. And here we are having one extra parameter, so we can call it by passing the ID. Let's say 1 or 2, whatever the ID you are having. So right now we are having only 1 or 2, so only 1 or 2 ID you can pass here. So these would be the generated, you can say the mapped URL for this get user action and for this one. So in the one we are accepting the parameter, in this one we are not accepting the parameter. And now here if you want to check it how we are getting the data. So now let's run the code and see how we are getting the data here. So it will open our API in the browser. So this is the running port here, but if you will see I'm not getting any output. I'm not getting here any output. The reason is here the URL for the user controller would be here API/user or API/user/1. So let me put here a breakpoint and let's access the same URL. So it would be here API/user. Then hit enter. You can see it is coming to this action method. Now it will return the list of users here. Then continue. So you can see in the browser I'm getting the data in XML format I'm getting, because in the browser by default it accepts the header as a XML. So that's why we're getting the data in XML format. And if you're willing to call the second method, let's say for getting a user based upon the user ID, you need to pass here a user ID. Let's say /2 I'm passing. It is coming here ID as 2, and this ID is going to map with this root parameters. And here the action is going to be decided based upon the verb name. About this action deciding we will talk about in the next class, in the next course. Then it will find out the user here based upon the ID user is available. Then continue. I'm getting here user having the user ID too. So perfectly we are able to get the data from our API when we are making the get request without passing any parameter, and when we are making the get request by passing any parameter. Testing web API using Postman. So far we have created the ASP.NET web API, even we have installed the Postman on our machine as well. So you have two options here, either use the Postman Chrome browser extension or either use the Postman standalone application. So I'm using here the Postman standalone application for testing my API. Let me show you how we can call our created API. If you will see this is our API, so make sure it is running. So let me run it using Visual Studio, and this is my running address. I'm just going to copy it, and the same address I'm just going to use here using the Postman /API/user. Then click on the send button, and here I'm making the get request. So this is the get verb I'm using. Click on the send button, and you can see here I just put here breakpoint. It's coming here for the debugging purpose. So I don't need to prepare the front end like UI for testing my API. Using the Postman, I can easily test and debug my application. And you can see this time getting here the data in JSON format. I'm not getting in the XML format, because here by default accept header is here JSON. So that's why I'm getting here data in JSON format. Same way if I'm willing to pass here ID, I'm passing its ID as 1. It will return me the user 1. It's coming here ID is 1. Continue. It's showing me the user containing the user ID 1. So this way the Postman is helping us for returning the data. That's a great tool you should use. So in the upcoming courses we will use the Postman everywhere for testing and debugging our API.